The past 3 years for me has been a journey filled with self-discovery. When my father passed away, I was feeling lost. Who am I now that one of the most influential people in my life is gone? But I could have never been found if I was not first lost, and I decided to find myself. Here are some tips that helped me to change my life, and hopefully it helps you too. There's this saying, don't tell people your plans, show them your results. The thought of a globe journey, especially in the beginning, is very exciting, and oftentimes we are fascinated with the over-romanticization of soft girl life. But for my oversharers, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Don't. If you don't know, I have my degree in biological sciences, and a lot of times when I like to think of change, I like to think of change as a type of diffusion. Osmosis describes the diffusion of water. It is passive, happens naturally, with the ultimate goal of reaching an equilibrium. However, within this process, there is a semi-permeable membrane that keeps some things in and some things out. That's the way you need to think of this journey. You want a new life? Then change is inevitable. Some things will stay in, some will stay out. But remember, the best way to do it is to do it alone. So we're on this journey, we do it alone. What's next? Your globe journey is more of a revitalization of mindset more than anything else. Yes, you can change your hair or your outfits or your looks, and to an extent this can help to evoke a newfound confidence that you may not have had before, and that can still be very influential. However, I like to think of those things as transitionary. They're quick and can be effective, but it is not permanent. And ultimately, if you truly want to change your aura, then you're gonna have to put in the work to change your mindset. There are 2 things that I want you to start doing this year in order to change your mindset, and that is journaling and reading. I want you to think of journaling in 3 parts. These 3 parts are to essentially represent the 3 parts of you: past, present, and future. I feel like globe journeys typically seem very present and future focused. Who is it that I want to be? And how will I get there? However, to grow, you must first accept. So, let's start with the past. Shadow work. Shadow work helps you to understand the parts of yourself that you may choose to ignore, whether that's your trauma, your triggers, and most importantly, why you have them. And more often than not, all of this starts in childhood. I'll make sure I leave some prompts down in the description box, but if you don't know where to start, get out a pen, get some paper, and start with this question. How was my relationship with my parents as a child, and how has it changed through my adulthood? And I know that that can be a lot to try to think about, so when you're answering this question, think about these things. I want you to think about, did you have autonomy growing up? Were you forced into an adult role as a child? Did you ever feel smothered or unworthy? Did you ever feel as though your parents were never satisfied? Whatever it is, the most important thing to do is to be honest with yourself, or else this won't work. And then write it down. When it comes to the present and the future, in my opinion, it's a little bit more simple. For the present, when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed, just write about how you're feeling in the moment and why you think you're feeling this way. Now, for the future, I want you to write about your future self. However, I want you to write about your future self as if it has already happened, as if your ideal self is already you. You're doing this so that when you think about who you want to be, you're thinking of it as a reality for yourself and not a dream. So because the new year is starting, I need to get a new journal. I'm just in my room, sitting at my desk, and I was like going through and I have my journal here. And one thing that I really love to do is journaling. I feel like it's not only a great way for like healing, shadow work, working on your traumas, all of those things, but it's also a really great way for manifestation as well. So I like to use it for a version of both. But let me tell you the best thing. The best thing about journaling is going through and looking at your old journal prompts. And it's one of those things that's like, it's nice to do, but it's also very humbling and very embarrassing, because it's like, okay, why am I talking about this man in my journal? Okay, but it's a part of the process, very humbling part of the process. And so yeah, I like love to look at my old journal prompts, even when I'm like, girl, why were you complaining about this man? Also though, because I write all of my like manifestation type of things in my journal, when I'm going and I'm talking about who I want my future self to be in the present tense, but I go and I date all of my journals, so I don't know like if it actually has happened or hasn't happened and everything. But I love to go and see, oh my hand, my arm's hurting. Really love to go and read those type of things as well, especially because I'm able to go and look back at like the things I have achieved, but also you're also able to go and see how your values have changed and how they have aligned as well, because a lot of those things change also. And like when you're going through your glow up journey, the person that you really want yourself to be in the beginning may not be exactly who you are at the end, just because as you go and you learn more about yourself, your values are going to change. The things that are really meaningful to you will also change, and you can kind of see that as well when you're going and looking at your old prompts about who you want yourself to be. Ooh, my arm is hurting. But I find that really interesting as well. It's like one of my favorite parts about journaling. How are you going to grow if you do not learn? I think that reading self-help books can be very useful because they provide perspective. They can also provide lessons, rules, guidelines. Also, if you're anything like me, then the first thing that you do when you go into Barnes & Noble may not be to grab a book about the lessons of Stoicism. However, you do it because it's important to your journey. It teaches discipline from the very act of reading the book itself all the way down to the lessons that graces its very pages. That's why it's important. It provides perspective, but it also takes action. And if you don't know, manifestation without action is nothing. If you ask me, discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love. Yes, you want this life for yourself, but do you love yourself enough to actually take the steps to achieve it? Are you willing to embrace the discomfort in order to get the outcome? Manifestation is important. You need to visualize and believe that you can be who you want your higher self to be. When I was a child, my dad, he would go and call my brother and I downstairs, and we would just get to the couch and we would all lie there together, and he would ask us to close our eyes. He would want us to close our eyes and imagine that we are wherever in the world that we want to be, that we're doing whatever it is that we want to do. And we just close our eyes and dream. This is something that I have taken into my adulthood, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I really saw the power of what he was doing and what he was trying to teach us. I like to think of manifestation in two parts. Vision is the first part. However, if you do nothing, you will get nothing. So action is part two. There is a reason why only 9% of Americans achieve their New Year's resolution. And that is because they're often giving themselves too many goals, and it's just too much. There is a ratio that I love, and that is 80-20. Usually you see it when it comes to diet, but I want you to think of it as when it comes to your goals. Start small, be practical, have steps. And lastly, reverse it. 20-80. You're gonna go and you're gonna write down all of your goals for yourself, whether it's financial, personal, career-based, whatever it may be. You're gonna have your goals and you're going to write them down. Next, you're gonna make sure that you have very clear steps in order to achieve your goals. And then, whatever those steps are, you're going to start doing it 20% of the time. So let's say, for example, your goal is to get in shape, transform your health. So let's say at the moment you're taking those steps in order to achieve your goals, but ultimately you want to start working out every single day. So you want to work out every day. Start with 2 times a week. 20-80, get comfortable. 30-70, get comfortable. 40-60, get comfortable. 50-50, get comfortable. Eventually, that 20-80 that you started with becomes 80-20. The difference is now you have balance. You have discipline. The change that you wanted to achieve is going to feel natural and not like a chore, which is ultimately what leads you to not following through in the first place and becoming like the other 91% of the population that does not follow through on their New Year's resolutions. The 20-80 to 80-20 mindset is a really great tool that you can use throughout your entire journey and also just through life in general. But I do find that it can be especially helpful when it comes to the simple things that you can start right now. Over the past year, I have really started to prioritize movement. I do not have a gym membership. You will not see me in the gym. Unless Equinox wants to give me a free gym membership, then maybe you will see me there. But ultimately, I don't really go to the gym much, not because I hate it or anything, but I just find that it doesn't bring me much joy. What I have found joy in has been walking. The thing about walking that feels so present. It's me, my music, my thoughts. And so for the past year, I've averaged close to 10,000 steps a day, and I feel good. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what you choose to do, it just matters that you do it. So keep it simple, keep it enjoyable, and just embrace the simplicity of it all. Because at the end of the day, your dopamine is going to be increased either way, and that's the main goal. When someone asks you, what do you like to do in your free time? What do you say? Do you find your mind wandering back to your work, your obligations? What do you do for you? I want you to choose a hobby this year and stick with it. And I want the hobby to be something that you have probably always wanted to do, but for some reason just didn't, whether it was fear of rejection, not being good enough, whatever. I want you to choose one and start. And even if you're worried, you're nervous, whatever it may be, go back and think about that 20%. Remember your 20% and start. So one thing that I like to do every year is I will go and usually I'll go on Canva and I'll do like a yearly goal table, and I'll set up the table with different categories. So I'll typically do a career goals, a financial goals, and then a personal goal. And one of my big personal goals for this year was to get more hobbies. And I actually really did do that, mainly due to ClassPass, which was really great. I ended up starting to do Pilates, I do gymnastics, I do hot yoga. One time I even went to a ballet class, which was like a very healing inner child moment for me. And so that has been really nice to go and allow me to have a bunch of other hobbies. One thing that I really wanted to do that I didn't actually get into this year was gardening. That was a big goal that I had for myself in the beginning of the year, and it never happened. However, it is the winter time, and wintertime means that it's time for you to make a bunch of soups and stews. And so one thing that I did was I ended up wanting to go and make a tomato bisque. So I went to the store to get some basil, and they didn't have any basil. All they had were these little basil plants. And so I ended up getting it. It has grown so big. I feel like this is like the start of my little gardening journey, and hopefully this will be my big goal personally for 2025, is to really go start my gardening journey. But I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm a gardener now. Not really, but. So yeah, here's my little basil plant. My first plant, hopefully of many. At first I was really kind of disappointed that I never ended up making my garden like I wanted to, but then I had to go and think about all of the hobbies I did acquire this year. And I just had to go and remember my 20-80, 80-20 mindset, and just remember that this little basil plant that I had, all because I wanted to make some tomato bisque, is the 20% that I needed. And eventually, hopefully, by the end of 2025, we'll get to our 80-20 and I'll have my beautiful garden that I've always wanted. Listen to me. You do not need to wake up at 5 a.m. in order to be productive. What you need is a routine that is achievable and productive to you, and you need the discipline to stick with it. However, I do think that there are certain elements that makes routine productive and useful, and so that's what I'm going to share with you. First element that I want you to incorporate into your routine is mindfulness. You want to incorporate something in your routine that helps you to quiet and relax your mind, something that can help to ease your anxieties about the day, whether that is meditation, it can also be prayer. One of the things that I like to do personally first thing in the morning is I like to pray, and I really use that prayer as a time to focus on gratitude. And I do it first thing in the morning before I look at my phone. I go into social media, anything, and I just like to give myself some time to just be very present and to be. The next element that I want you to incorporate into your routine is something physical, and that can be something that is completely unique to you. Do something that makes you feel good while also getting you moving. Like I said, daily exercise is something that naturally increases your dopamine levels, so making sure that you have something in your routine that gets you up, gets you active and feeling good is something that is super, super important. And again, make it enjoyable and natural to you. Usually in the morning, I like to stick to something that is super low impact, and usually I just go on YouTube and I search the 5-minute morning yoga videos, and it's really nice because it's quick, it's easy. Typically they're just like a couple of sun salutations or variations of that, but it also has an element of mindfulness to it as well. So I also like to use that time to just focus on my breathing, stillness, but at the same time there's also movement. So I find it to be a really nice balance and a great way to start off my day. Lastly, I want there to be some element in your routine where you're making sure that you are fueling your body, whether that's vitamins, supplements, a healthy breakfast. Proper fuel, especially in the mornings, is so influential for improving your mood throughout the entire day. When it comes to this glow up journey, it's always going to be from the inside out. So that means not only starting with your heart and your soul, but also with your health and wellness. Ultimately, if you want to glow up, rebrand your life, become it girl, that girl, soft life, whatever new word or phrase they're gonna have for it for the new year, just know that it takes work. If you do nothing, you will get nothing. But you deserve to feel happy about life, because the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Bye.